Welcome back to Athletic Everyday, day number 144. So I made the decision to just continue on with my program and just take the L with not maxing out or getting new 1RMs on my clean and my back squat. I figured that dunking is my number one goal, so I should really just progress on with the program. I still think I have built some strength, even though my lifts haven't been showing it in the squat and the clean. The only thing that I've really learned from doing that is I think that I need to, if I want to maintain my off-vert vertical jump, because I have made some serious gains in just jumping higher without a run-up. If I want to maintain that, then I do need to have at least 1 or 2 deep knee flexion exercises per week going relatively heavy. So whether that's a front squat, whether that's a full clean variant, or whether that's some kind of back squat, I need to incorporate that into my training, even though the main focus of this part of the program is more athletic specific knee range of motion movements. So for example, quarter squats, power cleans, sprinting, jumping, plyometrics, and so on. And that's what I'm sort of starting on today. So this Monday workout is going to be incorporating bounding drills. So a few years back, I watched this really interesting video on bounding and how bounding is really good for improving explosiveness and power in the lower body. And I think the main reason for that is because it's basically like sprinting, but you're trying to put more force into the ground and cover more distance per stride every time you do a bound. And because you're moving at higher velocities, there is such a great deal of force, and also you're hitting the ground, you're striking the ground with that single leg. There's such a great deal of force going through that leg that can't really be replicated with weights. I mean, you can do loaded jumps, but it's not even going to hold a candle to the flame that bounding drills will do. And I have tried bounding drills in the past, and I've always kind of sucked at them. They do require a great deal of coordination, and you can see that I'm not getting much distance here. But I think form and technique is very important when you practice bounding. But the posterior chain involvement that you get, the hamstring and the glute range of motion that you're getting on these exercises, you're getting into a very deep range of hip flexion as you drive that knee up and forwards, which means you're getting a great deal of stretch on the hamstring. And then as you push through, you strike the ground, and then you ideally you're not supposed to have too much backside mechanics, like the backside of your leg isn't supposed to go too far behind your body, but as you do, you will get a good amount of contraction across the hamstring and the glutes. And it's very short ground contact times mean that you have to produce force quickly, which means that you're going to get a decent amount of power output in the lower body. So if you progress and improve at bounding drills, then naturally you will start to see an improvement in your explosiveness and your power in your lower body. That was my reasoning. And it's also they were just really fun. It's like skipping, but you're almost like just trying to glide across the ground. It probably didn't look like that when you look at the video, but I really enjoyed doing them. And, in summer, it's sunny on the grass. It's just the perfect time to be doing them. It would be nice to be able to do them on athletics track, maybe with spikes, or, on an actual athletics track with the rubberized ground or the softer ground. But grass works for me for now, and I'm pretty happy with those. Then the next part of the workout, I wanted to do some Peterson step-ups. The difference between a Peterson, a Poliquin, and a Patrick step-up, the 3 Ps, is that you actually elevate the heel as you go down. So you'll notice I'm lifting my heel off as my front heel hits the ground. So what that's essentially doing is it's increasing the amount of dorsiflexion it's reducing the amount of dorsiflexion that you get your ankle. And it's actually meaning that you have to start to engage your soleus muscle. So that deeper calf muscle, the one that is used in standing a lot in walking, that gets a lot more engagement as well. And that also helps then to stabilize the ankle, keep the ankle in a kind of a stiffened position as you go into deep knee flexion. The ankle and the knee, the flexion at both of those, obviously is the synchronization of those movements and the stability through the ankle and the knee when doing explosive and athletic movements. Not only will improve the efficiency of those movements, but will also reduce your risk of injury. It removes, I hate saying the word inefficient or non-optimal movement, because there isn't really such thing as a movement that's non-optimal. All movement is okay as long as it's progressed properly and you're not doing it with, excessive load all at once. Abrupt increasing of the load through a certain movement pattern. Yes, that's how you get, ACL problems. That's how you get tears, tendon ruptures, and so on. But There is certain ways of moving that will reduce your risk of injury, because that's just how the human body is meant to function. We're not meant to hyperextend our knees and hyperextend our elbows, for instance, but you can train with hyperextended knees and hyperextended elbows, but it makes sense to try and minimize that risk by not training through that. And so that was my reasoning with including the Peterson step up, not because I'm trying to not hyperextend my knee, but because I'm trying to strengthen that quarter squat position on the single leg. And I worked up to pretty heavy I got my mind in back squats yesterday. I worked up some pretty heavy sets of 10 and 12 with 70 kilos on the Petersons, and I found a good way of setting up my calf raises. I actually found it was easier to balance on the straight leg calf raises when I elevated the front of my foot for some reason. When I was doing this on flat ground, I was struggling, but I worked up to a set of 80 for sets of 10 with my feet, the balls of my feet elevated on those two sheets of wood there, and I found that was actually a lot easier to do the movement. So yeah, I actually did a little superset here. Supersetted the straight leg calf raises with the tibialis raises, and that I found was quite a nice little pump set. I was aiming for sets of 10 on both, but because I went up to 20 kilos on the tib bar, I was only able to get like sets of 8 or 9, but that is the heaviest weight I've ever done for a tib raise, and that's actually pretty heavy. I mean, I never even thought that I'd be able to get 20 kilos on a tib bar, and I didn't even think this bar was going to be able to tolerate having 20 kilos on it, but it held up pretty well. And I really think that overloading and strengthening the lower leg is one of the keys that is often neglected when vertical jump training. It's all hips, quads, how can I strengthen my glutes and my quads and everything. And sometimes people will often neglect that the lower leg is also a very, very important part of vertical jump as well. So that was my reasoning with this workout. I was supposed to do some jumping today, but I decided not to because I jumped yesterday and I didn't want to have too much load for the knees. That couldn't tolerate. Got to always, when you train every day, you've got to keep in mind load management, not trying to do too much load, not trying to overtrain, because that's a risk when you train this much. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.